So what does acetylcholine do? What does acetylcholine do? And you contrasted acetylcholine with serotonin, and you associated acetylcholine with increased precision of attention focused outward, and that's at the lower levels of the hierarchy?
Yeah, so this is a vast simplification, but I think it's a sort of a useful mnemonic. So if you think about the hierarchy that you were describing before, and you now want to discriminate between a situation where all my high-level beliefs are insensitive to changes at the lower levels. So this would be, say, the dominant alpha male, very, very self-confident, has very precise, what we sometimes in a Bayesian reading of this predictive coding scheme called prior beliefs. Prior beliefs, this is the way I behave, this is the way you behave, and I am going to realize, instantiate those fantasies by behaving in this way, and indeed that's what normally happens. So I'm very confident, and that translates into a high degree of prior precision, which could be mediated by things like serotonin. The equivalent neurotransmitter at the lower level is often just looking at the neuroanatomy and the neurochemistry and physiological experiments. A similar role might be played by acetylcholine. So you can think of, if you like, too much prior precision as being mediated by serotonergic neurotransmission, and of course you know as well as I do that it's a very complicated game with different receptor subtypes and sort of inverted U behavior. So I'm not saying it's more or less, but certainly rests upon the way that you deploy your serotonergic firing that will have a profound influence on the higher level prior beliefs. Exactly the same kind of role may be ascribed for cholinergic neurotransmission from the nucleus basalis of Meinhardt, which is another neuromodulator. So you've got dopamine, you've got serotonin, you've got adrenaline or norepinephrine, you have oxytocin. There are lots of them, and they may all have particular roles in setting the precision or the recalcitrance or the sensitivity at different hierarchical levels. So it's generally, in my world, if you like, if you think of serotonin doing one thing, then the complement of that is that the acetylcholine's doing it in the inverse way. So it's sort of like a yin yang. So when I talk about attention at the periphery, it's likely that does, at the low level of the hierarchy, it's likely that does rely upon intact cholinergic neurotransmission with possibly aberrant serotonergic neurotransmission that may be due to psychopathology, or it could be due to taking drugs that affect, say, 5-HT2A receptors, like all the psychedelics, psilocybins, for example.
Okay, so I want to go in, I've got 3 directions to go in now. The first question that's been lurking in the back of my mind for a while is, okay, when you make progress towards a valued goal, let's say we inhabit a shared narrative and we're making progress towards our mutual stated goal. And when we see ourselves making progress, we get a bit of a dopamine hit. Could you say that the fundamental reason for the positively rewarding effect of that movement forward is that as I move forward towards a goal, I decrease the entropy that still remains between me and the goal? And so is even that reward, is even that movement forward readable as an entropy reduction?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm closer now, so there's... Okay. So
I mean,
right. See, I didn't understand that before. Okay. That...
I mean, it's almost written into the mathematical meaning of the word. So if entropy just is uncertainty, and as I get close to resolving that uncertainty, getting my fruit juice, pleasing my wife, or being able to watch the news, if it's an epistemic reward, it is just expected surprise. Just is the uncertainty, and the closer you get, the more, the less uncertain you are, and all the evidence suggests exactly as you say.
It's partly because the closer you get, the fewer things you have to compute in order to get there. So that's a good working definition of entropy. It's like I have to do less, I have to handle less doubt between me and my eventual destination. So that's cool. So that reduces dopaminergic reward to a subset of entropy reduction. Right, and we should point out, living creatures are always fighting entropy. They're trying to violate the laws of thermodynamics in some, not fundamentally, but in some local sense, by insisting upon the maintenance of order in the face of this proclivity for things to go every which way at once. And so, all right, so movement forward towards a shared goal. That's also going to reduce the entropy between us, because it means if I can rely on you to accompany me as I move forward, that means I can predict you better. It also means that both of us are now in a situation that's less entropic because there's less variability between you and me and the joint us and that shared goal. And so I've fortified my belief in your reliability, and I've reduced my apprehension of your entropy.
Yep. A physicist would love that because, of course, the nice thing about entropy and free energy, which we're here sort of reading as surprise and prediction errors, is an extensive quantity. So your free energy and my free energy, or your entropy and my entropy, we just have to add them together because they're extensive. And then our free energy is exactly the sum of our free energy. So if we can both render our mutual worlds more predictable and less surprising, then our joint free energy will fall, and this this is, if you like, it could be read as a statement of imperatives, but you could also read it another way, in a much more deflationary way, that societies through to cells that exist are just these free energy minimizing systems. So these conversations are just the kinds of conversations that can only be there simply because they are free energy minimizing, and if you like, are what is left when you wanted to say resisting the second law of thermodynamics. The very fact that we are here having this low free energy conversation and this exchange, rendering everything mutually predictable and resolving uncertainty about ourselves, means that this little dyadic exchange is in itself a free energy minimizing system. And free energy here again is just being used as a proxy for uncertainty, for unpredictability, disorder. So by minimizing free energy, we are implicitly going to be minimizing the disorder and the entropy and the expected surprise. So it's all very consistent with the physics of self-organization. What you're doing, though, I think, is thinking about what would these things look like in a social context, in a dyadic context. And just to say also that one way of reading what you were saying about, well, if we can both shorten the path to a state of orderly predictiveness and uncertainty resolution, then if one thinks about that in terms of interactions either between people or between people and their environment, then you've got now a nice model for niche construction and cultural niche construction. That everything I do is in the service of making everything more predictable. And if that involves evolving to have a language and to teach my children language, then there's, even that aspect of very, very high level niche construction or in culture, acting upon the world to make it in an encultured way more learnable and more predictable, is all in the service of minimizing this entropy, anxiety, or free energy. Uncertainty, sorry, I slipped in anxiety there. I shouldn't do that. Anxiety, I think, it would be our remarkable capacity to recognize that we haven't resolved our uncertainty in the way that we would normally expect to, and that would be the situation where the dopamine just goes away.